Have you ever seen a World Cup final end with players celebrating and then suddenly grabbing each other by the throat? Because that's exactly what happened after Spain lifted the biggest trophy in football. The confetti was ready, the cameras were focused on the champions, and Lionel Messi's final World Cup was supposed to end with one last emotional moment. Instead, it turned into pure chaos. Punches were thrown, players were shoved to the ground, red cards came flying after the final whistle, and somehow the ugliest moment of the night happened after the game was already over. So what actually made Argentina completely lose their cool? And how did one celebration explode into one of the biggest post-match fights we've ever seen at a World Cup? Well, the answer is a lot messier than you probably think. So, what actually happened? Well, here's the part almost nobody saw in real time. By the time Spain's players were ready to celebrate becoming world champions, the match was already over. But the drama? It was only getting started. The final whistle had already blown. Spain had just beaten Argentina 1-0 after extra time to become world champions for only the second time in their history. Ferran Torres had scored the winner in the 106th minute. The Spanish players were running toward each other, and everything looked like a normal trophy celebration. But then, in the middle of all that, something completely unexpected happened. According to multiple reports, Argentina defender Nahuel Molina appeared to take a swing at Spain captain Rodri during the celebrations. One second, it was a title celebration. The next, players from both teams were sprinting toward each other. Rodri immediately confronted Molina. Spain's Eric Garcia and Borja Iglesias rushed in to protect their captain. And within seconds, the entire celebration had turned into absolute chaos. But believe it or not, the worst part hadn't even happened yet. And then, Leandro Paredes stepped in. If the situation was already getting out of control, this is the moment it completely exploded. Video from the scene shows the Argentina midfielder charging into the confrontation, aggressively shoving Eric Garcia before grabbing him by the throat. Just a second later, he turned toward Gavi, wrestled the young Spanish midfielder to the ground, and nearly ripped his training bib apart in the middle of the scuffle. Suddenly, players from both teams were pushing, yelling, and trying to pull teammates away before things got even worse. Even Argentina manager Lionel Scaloni rushed onto the field, desperately trying to calm his own players down. But by that point, emotions had completely taken over. The referee had no choice but to step in one last time, showing Paredes a red card after the final whistle. It was an unbelievable ending to football's biggest night. But here's what makes the entire scene even more surprising. Argentina had already been walking a dangerous line long before the fight even started. Because here's the thing, this wasn't just about what happened after the final whistle. The tension had been building for almost the entire night. Spain controlled the match from start to finish, and Argentina simply couldn't find a way back into the game. While Spain kept creating chances, Argentina spent most of the night chasing the ball. By the time extra time arrived, the pressure was already starting to show. Then came the moment that made an already difficult job almost impossible. Deep into the second half, Enzo Fernandez was shown a red card, forcing Argentina to play the rest of the match with just 10 men. Against a team dominating possession and attacking wave after wave, that was a nightmare. Spain kept knocking on the door until, in the 106th minute, substitute Ferran Torres finally broke the deadlock with the goal that decided the World Cup. And as soon as that ball hit the back of the net, you could almost feel the frustration boiling over on the Argentine side. The final whistle didn't create those emotions. It simply unleashed everything that had been building for more than 120 exhausting minutes. And in the middle of all that disappointment, there was one image that perfectly captured how painful this night really was for Argentina. And then there was Lionel Messi, For so many fans, this wasn't just another World Cup final. It was almost certainly the last time the greatest player of his generation would ever wear Argentina's jersey on football's biggest stage. But instead of lifting another trophy, Messi could only watch as Spain celebrated around him. It was a painful ending to a tournament that had carried so much emotion. To make matters even tougher, Spain didn't just win the World Cup. Rodri also walked away with the Golden Ball, finishing the tournament as its best player ahead of Messi. For years, football fans dreamed of another magical ending for Argentina's captain. Instead, his final World Cup night became remembered for heartbreak, frustration, and scenes that had nothing to do with football. And that's what makes this story so difficult to process, because Spain deserved to be remembered for becoming world champions. But within minutes, almost everyone was talking about the fight instead of the football. So when people look back at the 2026 World Cup final years from now, they'll probably remember two completely different stories. One is Spain's, a team that stayed patient, survived 120 exhausting minutes, found the breakthrough in extra time, and earned their second World Cup title with a performance that showed exactly why they're the new kings of international football. The other story belongs to Argentina. A night that began with hopes of defending their crown ended with 2 red cards, a post-match brawl, and images of players arguing instead of applauding the new champions. Football is emotional. Losing the biggest game in the world hurts more than most of us can imagine, but finals are remembered just as much for how teams handle defeat as how they celebrate victory. And unfortunately for Argentina, what should have been remembered as Messi's final World Cup became a night overshadowed by chaos after the whistle. One thing is certain, this final gave us a new world champion, but it also gave football fans one of the most talked about endings in World Cup history.